What's up to all our sidekicks and henchfolk out there in the Geek Nation? My name is Noel, and you're currently tuning into the CultPop podcast live stream. I am your host, not Johnny Destructo, because he's currently having computer issues. However, we'll get him on very soon. I'm still not Johnny Destructo, the owner of Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex in Philadelphia, PA. However, I am a frequent visitor, but I don't think that matters. He'll be here soon. With me today is me. Also, I'm reading the script. This is how it goes. These are the rules. With me today also is Len, a man that was last week eating naan and liking it. What are you doing today, Len? Tell people something.
I'm just sitting here enjoying the JD-ness or JD-less CultPop. What's up? How like your boy?
Also, this week, Brandon's not here. However,
just an update.
Probably not gonna. It's totally fine. However, the last screen that you see there is Mr. Brian Lieb, who is a man, I've been told, in possession of a small pumpkin. Tell the people something.
Look at this.
Yeah.
Look at this pumpkin, you guys. It's small. It's a pumpkin, and here it is. I got it.
That is a diminutive pumpkin,
right? It's smaller even than other small pumpkins, which are slightly larger than this.
Now, what are you going to do with that small pumpkin?
It's doing it right now. Well, you could argue that it's not, because I plan to decorate with it. I'm going to, I saw there were 5 of them for sale for $2.
Mm-hmm.
So I got 5 of them, and I gave Tamara, my girlfriend, 3 of them because I thought she would think they were cool. And I kept a couple myself. One of them lost its stem. So this one, look, there's a little weirdness in the color. I'm going to sit it somewhere. That. No, thank you. Yeah, and I'm just thinking now, where do I sit it? But it's going to be somewhere. That's the plan.
Well, now that we've spent a good 30 seconds on a tiny pumpkin, as well as the price point and the recipients of said pumpkins.
Right.
Is that with tax or without tax? Where'd you get these? A farmer's market, or it doesn't matter. Either way.
Yeah. All right.
We're here today to discuss comics, as well as some weekly fun stuff. But before we get into the books, and yes, JD will be here soon. Before we get into the books, though, Len, do we have any letters?
We do have letters, but before we get into the letters, we actually have a comment and a question from Christopher St. Saucy Goodnight asking Noel, how do you afford all those omnibuy?
Well, it's a cross between buy, sell, trade, being employed, and no, it's actually just kind of that. So like I will weekly get single issues and just read them. I don't often reread them, but a lot of things I'll want to revisit later. If you get, 10, 15 books a week, there's a couple of key issues that you'll just fall into, or I'll sell off full runs on eBay or something. And then it just kind of snowballs into that where the habit funds itself in a way where like I'll sell off the first 20 issues of Jason Aaron's Avengers run for like $40 or $50. And that goes towards a collected edition that I'll pre-order or something. Like it just kind of snowballs.
How do you determine what is worthy of omnibusing on your shelf?
Well, I'm not gonna lie, for the pandemic, I did kind of process my weird thoughts with purchasing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple of omnibuses on my shelf that I don't know if I'll ever read, which is a shame. So like I impulse bought I don't know, like Silver Surfer or something. It was just like, yeah, I'm gonna get into it, and I'm probably never gonna read it. So there's a couple of those, and I think that one I'm on like a couple of Facebook groups where people are like, hey, I'm done with this one. Does anybody want to trade, or I'll give it to you for this, or who's got that? And like it's like an aftermarket of just like trading books back and forth. But what if it's a book that I absolutely adored, even if I read it all already, I will try and get it. So like Ed Brubaker's Captain America run. I have all 5 omnibuy of that because I needed to own that. As I was reading it in issues, it was just like, so over time I was just like kind of getting those. And there's a couple of things too that are out of print that are like whales that I've gone out of my way to really, really try and find. Those are you know, there's a FOMO sense to it too, where it's just like, I really, really want that in collected edition. You know?
I feel you.
The last one I got that was kind of a get was Jason Aaron's Punisher Max run with Steve Dillon.
Okay.
They put it in omnibus, but then it was immediately out of print for like almost a decade, and it still is. But in one of the Facebook groups I'm in, there was a dude who was just like, "Hey, I'm selling off some of my key stuff because I want to buy a weight set." I was just like,
"Sweet,
excuse me, is that cover price for that? Okay, thank you." So just stuff like that. Like it's a failing upwards to that shelf.
Well, there you go. There's your answer, Christopher St. Saucy Goodnight, who also sent us an email. He says, the Thor marks the X spot. That is the subject line of his email. I want to thank you for recommending the current Thor run. I had to resort to buying a bunch of reprints of the first five issues so I could read the first arc. But hopefully, once the speculation dies down, I can get them at a reasonable price. Minus issue 4, which I'll get from you, JD. I really enjoyed reading the series so far. As for the current X-Men crossover, I love that even though none of the Hellions were chosen to be swordsmen, they still put out a tie-in issue, and it was actually hysterical. I don't know the character of Empath, but he was hilarious, as was Sinister. It was probably the best of the 3 X books that came out this week. Can't wait to hear what you all think about Future State. I'll check it out probably, but I am skeptical. Chris St. Saucy, good night.
Is anybody here right now caught up or reading Ten of Swords?
No.
Yeah. So
no.
I think the only one that has or is Brandon, who's not on the show today, or he'll jump in later. But we all kind of made a decision to it would just be the X-Men podcast for 3 months.
Yeah.
Because there are 3 to 4 titles a week. So we kind of made the executive decision that maybe it's something we'll talk about after the fact, because it's a really immersive event that's happening in every book. And what you're saying, it doesn't sound like it's all that surprising, because when you have that many chapters coming out in rapid succession, there's going to be at least half of them that are just like added or
I wonder is this was their idea well, let's see, we usually do a big event with tie-ins. What if we just say that they're all chapters of the story, see how it plays out in that way, editorially?
I'm sure it was a mix of the two. From what I understand, it was one plot line that kind of exploded on itself. And then all the writers got together and started writing each other's books. That is something that I do think is really, really cool about the Ten of Swords event. All of the creative teams for each book are kind of mixed. So even though Jerry Duggan writes Marauders, he is also co-writing X-Force with Ben Percy for some issues. So they're cool. They're sharing the load and making sure that things match. It's still really aggressive. But I did want to say, Christopher St. Saucy, good night. Welcome to the Omnibus podcast. He says, I have the majority of all of Bendis' Daredevils, and I'm considering getting the Omnibus collections. Same with Jessica Jones and Whedon's Astonishing X-Men. I have all those on my shelf, and I would never sell them. So that's stuff like that, like all of Bendis' run of Daredevil. It's perfect from start to finish. I have it. So to answer your question before, what's omnibus worthy? Something that I'm going to want for my children's children.
Yeah, I have all of Bendis' run, but I have it all in trades. And I thought about collecting it in omnibus, but I was like, I typically am not a double dipper like that. So I'll just, keep the trades. Now, Jessica Jones, I don't have in trades. So I would buy that one big omnibus because I loved that series.
It's out of print. I'm technically not a double dipper either. I will only double dip when I can sell the previous.
Oh, it's out of print. Oh, I gotta get it.
Alias is out of print, bro. You should jump on it whenever you see it.
I will indeed. Okay. All right.
I never got the omnibus too much. I really like having trades of things, but I rarely got them if I'd read them in another format first. Like if I read them issue by issue. Like I'm looking right now at my bookshelf of trades and collected editions, and I like having every single one of them. But I never went too much into the collected editions. They're nice though. They look nice. They're cool to have.
I don't know. Look. I'm not. It's not a hill I'm going to die on where it's like it's the best format. But I just really enjoy it.
Yeah,
it's heavy.
No, it looks cool, and it looks cool.
Well, yeah,
and you're surrounded by your comics and shit. You know what I mean?
There have been times we've gone on vacation, and it's just like, well, I can't take an omnibus with me, so I just like a bunch of trades or stuff. I get that. That's totally fair. But I will try and I try to read like 1 to 2 a month. Like I'm always walking around with like an omnibus or two through the house because I will try and read like one chapter of each one a day. So like this month is American Vampire and the Punisher, the Jason Aaron Punisher. But I'll try and like I want to make sure that shit gets read because what's the point if it doesn't? But yeah, let's talk about comics.
The ones that came out. The ones that came out this week.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
So the first thing that came out this week, or the first thing we're going to talk about this week, is Rorschach #1 by Tom King and Jorge Fornes. It's been 35 years since Ozymandias dropped a giant interdimensional squid on New York City, killing thousands and destroying the public's trust in heroes once and for all. And since that time, one figure in a fedora mask and a trench coat has become the divisive culture icon. So, what does that mean when Rorschach reappears as an assassin trying to kill a candidate running for president against Robert Redford? Who is the man behind the mask, and why is he acting this way? It's up to one detective to uncover the true identity of the would-be killer, and it will take him into a web of conspiracies involving alien invasions, disgraced good do-gooders, mystic visions, and yes, comic books. Writer Tom King joins forces with artist Jorge Fornes for a new miniseries that explores the mythic qualities of one of the most compelling characters from the best-selling graphic novel of all time, Watchmen. So what did you guys think of this book? Brian.
Take that, Len.
Person.
I liked it. It was... So we've reviewed Tom King's books on this podcast before, and his style as relates to Silver Age stuff is not usually to my taste. But Rorschach is exactly the kind of character that gritty cynicism applies to, you know?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So yeah, I thought it was an interesting beginning of this mystery. I'll tell you, one thing that stood out to me, and I thought it was a really weird choice, was to use at least 2 comics creators' names in the Otto Binder and Frank Miller were the people on the tapes. Yeah. The third one I looked up and nothing comic-y sprung out about it, but he seems to be a musician by that name. Randy Cox, I think what it was.
Okay. Randy Cox. Yeah.
Is he, do you know any comics connection with him?
I don't think there's a comics books connection.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Maybe it's just somebody who likes Pontius Pirate is a clever turn of phrase. Yeah, like I said, the mystery is cool. Are we going to talk about what happens at the end of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool spoiler there. Do you want to or we don't have to. I think there's enough to talk about.
I mean, we can. I mean, well, first, just to give general impressions on the book.
Yeah. Okay.
I actually was very surprised that I liked this. One, because, you know, as much as, you know, I may not, you know, I think the world is kind of turned on Alan Moore, on their thoughts of Alan Moore. I do think that DC is a little bit of a dick, the way they kind of keep the Watchmen thing alive just so that rights can't revert back to the brother. But so them kind of like now, you know, pulling Watchmen into Doomsday, and now we're going to do a Rorschach, you know, miniseries. It's like, oh man, can we just leave well enough alone? So I was not looking forward to this. And then Tom King, I'm kind of like hit or miss with his writing. So I was like, I don't know. But then I opened up the book and the art. I mean, if you don't like this art, you are blind because this art is just beautiful. It fit the story. The story was just a really cool, like, detective story. Like, it was almost reading like it's like the best of Gotham Central that you're reading in this.
I definitely got Gotham Central vibes. Absolutely.
Exactly. So and it got me caught up. I mean, like, did I know what the big secret, big reveal was going to be at the end? Yeah, I kind of saw it coming, but I liked the way that it got there. I went with it. I went with the storytelling. I went with everything. I enjoyed the characters. It was a slow build on building up these characters a little bit, even though it doesn't give you a whole lot. I loved it. There was nothing not to like about it. Hey, there's JD.
Hey.
Oh, JD. It wasn't the same without you, man. I missed you so much.
I did so terribly.
Did you guys read the email? We should
just start over.
Yes, we did.
Does everybody
what's up to our sidekicks and heads?
Yeah, that was all it take.
Hi guys.
Hey, we're in the middle of reviewing Rorschach.
I know. I was watching. Go ahead, Brian. What'd you think?
Well, as I said earlier, let me repeat that word for word. I enjoyed it, JD, just for the quick recap.
Thanks.
I think
Great.
Tom
Shut
King's
up. Noel, what'd you think?
I agree with what Len was saying. So I'm not overly precious about DC has repeatedly done Alan Moore dirty, but Alan Moore has kind of become a reclusive jerk. So, I mean, I don't really have a team, so I don't really care. But I'm also not very precious about anything. Like, if somebody wants to remake a movie or remake a story or a 30-year sequel, I don't freak out about it like a lot of nerds do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. Like, unless they're like, hey, we're going to do this thing, but we're also going to burn all your copies. Okay, then maybe I'll, pick up pitchforks and riot like everyone else does. But if you're going to do something, just do it well. And that's what this was. This does it well. In regards to the conversation, if this is what universe this is in, and like, is this Doomsday Clock universe? Is this the show universe? Is this the book universe? I don't care. I also don't think it matters.
Yeah.
I like that they're doing all of these side stories or like ways to do sequels without doing sequels. And I kind of want them all to just exist. They don't have to fit. They don't have to fit for me at all.
I think honestly, I mean, I just like to think about that kind of thing, but it feels, even though they make like one reference to something that would only be explainable by the show unless some other thing happened in this universe, it doesn't feel like it's part of any of the other universes. You know what I mean? It feels like it's its own story doing its own thing.
Yeah. Also, too, Len mentioned the art. Jorge Fornes is so incredibly good. What he does here is he does a lot of like Dave Gibbons-ish things, but this is not. Yeah. This is not a copy of Dave Gibbons' layouts and Dave Gibbons. Like, it's like it's got like the feeling of Watchmen-esque, but it's not just like a straight up ripoff. Like, hot take, like some of Doomsday Clock was. That was intentionally panel layout ripoffs, and like this is just more like a different perspective in the same. It was really well done. If you're gonna do something like this, make it different, make it yours. And so far, this first issue, that's what that feels like. So I'm cool.
He's got a lot of, Watchmen all had the entire book was all the same amount of grids in every page, right? Or a decent amount of it.
Yeah, it was all based off like a 9-panel grid, but there was some.
And he does something kind of similar to that, but never really 9 panels. Like there's a bunch of pages that have grid layouts and then some that split up. Seconded. It's very interesting.
He does in some parts if you go back and read New Frontier by Darwin Cook, the entire book is like 3-panel layout. The whole book, it's all like 3 full page. However, in those 3 panels, they will sometimes segment each one. So it always maintains that same visual flow,
Yeah.
Even if there's 12 panels on there, it still kind of all matches the same grid. Like there's no J.H. Williams style bleeding off the edge, or like it's all very uniform. It's like they create a sandbox and they got really, really creative inside the sandbox instead of like broke all the rules, which is in and of itself is really impressive.
I'll tell you, that's one we should do for book club one time.
Sandbox?
New Frontier. Or Sandbox.
I mean...
so the thing at the end, do we want to... Or JD, what did you think about this book?
I didn't care about it at all.
Really? Oh, okay.
I had no connection to this book whatsoever. I don't like Alan Moore. It sucks that that DC screwed him over, but that's separate from the fact that I do not like Alan Moore. I do not like his reliance on being just curmudgeonly, and superhero comics are the worst, and they're made for children, and if you're reading them, you're an idiot, and all that other nonsense that he likes to spew. And it's also not entirely his fault, right? Because people keep asking him. People keep asking him to comment on things, and when they know what his comment is going to be. And, I don't blame the man. I certainly get it. But it does not, separate from that, I don't enjoy his writing for the most part. There are a couple of things that I do enjoy from him, like Watchmen. And I don't think that Watchmen is an untouchable series that should never be delved back into again. That being said, I don't know if this was necessary. This first issue didn't give me any reason to think it was necessary. The art is really well done. I do like looking at the book. It's lovely. And I had no interest at any point in this first issue. I like Tom King sometimes, and I'm certainly willing to give this a little bit more leeway, like another issue or two, before I make my full decision, because I have enjoyed certain things of his in the past. But otherwise, this was so far a waste of my time.
I mean, if it's any consolation, Alan Moore probably hates this too.
He hates everything. I don't care what Alan Moore hates.
I mean, it's just more of an issue of when we bring our, like, it's just like I can't deal with some writers even if they've got nothing to do with this. It's an association. So it's like Watchmen, don't give a shit just because Alan Moore, even if it's something completely different on top.
I really enjoy.
Clarify for me.
I loved Doomsday Clock. It's Watchmen characters.
Yeah.
It's just I think my point was, yes, I do not like Alan Moore, but that is separate from the fact that this is not interesting to me. I didn't want to be misconstrued as like, I don't like Alan Moore, so I don't like Watchmen, so I didn't enjoy this. It was just, I don't like Alan Moore because he came up in the conversation. Also, I did not enjoy this issue.
That's kind of what I wanted you to clarify for pretty much for everyone else, not just for me. Yeah. It's not just a line in the sand. Alan Moore associated. Screw it.
No,
all right.
Not at all.
Just
I love Doomsday Clock. I thought it was a lot of fun. I'm still confused as to where it exists in the multiverse of timelines, but
everything matters.
Todd Engel in the comments said the weak thing about Rorschach was, even though I read it a few days ago, I barely remembered and had to go flip through the issue to know what you guys are talking about. I could maybe see a little bit of that, but to me, that's because this is very much a detective story, right? So it's built. It's the slow build of the case. It's like if this was a detective TV show, this would be the first 10 minutes. Well, probably this would be the first 5 minutes before the opening credits. You know how they deconstruct things on comics now. But even with that, I still think this was just very well done, well paced, and I enjoyed it.
The scene you're showing right now, the scene of the guardsman going after the shooter, was just so well paced and put together. So, nothing actually happened in this issue. They told you something that happened before the book started in pieces, and then just kind of laid out all the chess pieces for the rest of it. So, in regards to if this felt like a meal, it didn't. It's maybe like the first 10 minutes of a of a movie or the first chapter of a mystery novel. It really is very empty. No, empty is the wrong word because there's a lot here. It's just if you expect to have a full kind of,
it's all set up.
It was like a taste.
Yeah,
it was
so
like
they put the food on the plate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to be eating it.
Yeah. Now,
But,
the thing that happens at the end, do you guys think that it is as it appears? Or not?
Could be.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the concept of time in this universe is ridiculous. So it could be. Yes. Everyone's recording.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to like this more. But I'm perfectly willing to accept that maybe issue 2 will be the one that hooks me. You know, I haven't written the book off. But yeah, so far this, the book's called Rorschach, and this is not a Rorschach book so far.
Not that
you know
what?
what?
True.
I don't think it's going to be. I think we're going to follow this detective. Yeah.
Just about Rorschach.
Which makes me even more excited for it. And, before you jumped on the stream, Len made the reference that it felt very Gotham Central-ish. A book that's very much about Batman that features him twice in the entire run.
Yep.
Now, what I liked about that book was the interesting characters.
I mean, we don't know anything about this detective yet.
That's what I'm saying.
Pretty cool.
I'm not interested in him yet.
All right.
Well, I liked it.
JD's not into it. That's fine. That's fine. There's always one.
Yeah. I'm always the one.
No, you're not always the one.
That's true. Let's move on.
All right.
Commanders in Crisis #1 of 12, written by Steve Orlando with art by David Tinto. The last survivors of the multiverse live among us under new superheroic identities. 5 survivors of doomed worlds taking a second chance to ensure our world lives on. A new twist on strange superhero comics with a bleeding edge eye on the modern moment. Commanders in Crisis follows in the footsteps of Doom Patrol and Thunderbolts as 5 unexpected heroes come together to solve a murder unlike any other. The victim? Compassionate self. This is Ideacide. That sounds so cool. Did anyone think that this book was as cool as that descriptor made it seem?
That's a difficult question to answer, JD, because
that's assuming that the descriptor was cool.
Yeah. Yes.
Did you guys? So this issue had a foreword by Dan DiDio.
Oh yeah, I read it.
So I read it and I was like, fascinating. Okay. And that what he wrote is exactly why I didn't like this book.
I thought it was perplexing that he had one at all. Like I read and I was like, I went back. I'm like, does he have anything to do with this book? Like, why is he writing this?
Well, it made it seem like I need to explain what's happening, what's about to happen, because if not, then it's going to be an absolute like, what the hell is happening? So the idea was, let's create an event series, but all new characters. So event series are popular based off the fact that it's all like the relatable IP that Batman, Superman, blah blah blah. Why those work is because you already know all the characters intimately, and you don't need to learn them or meet them or understand them. They're just who Superman is. Plop them in the middle of a book. Their characterization done. Everything here was it's just scatological and look at this and check this out, but you don't give a shit about anyone. This was I didn't like this.
Nope, same.
I didn't like it either. And the artwork is not bad, but there was something about the production of it that, despite this being Image and despite there obviously being money put into it, there was something very old school and slightly amateurish about it. You know what I mean? I can't put my finger on it. Maybe it's because like I'm a big font guy and the font didn't like necessarily work, and the colors were all kind of samey. And Dan DiDio writing that forward in the beginning, and me knowing Steve Orlando as like a name that I've known in the comic book business, made it sound to me like Dan DiDio basically hired these two people to take his ideas and bring life to him, figure out a way to bring life to him. You know, some notes that he had left over from when he left DC. That's what it sounded like to me. That's what it read like to me. And it felt very weak. Like, you know, they say it's in Philadelphia, but it's obviously, this is not by anybody who's ever lived in Philadelphia.
Did you get those policemen's names, or police officers' names? Speaking of that, Pat and Gina. And I was like, cheesesteak reference?
Yes.
Is that?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it just really felt real. Everything on here just felt real forced. And I just, like, trying too freaking hard. And
forced too hard. Like even the characterizations are just like everyone. It so sucks. This happens in normal Big Two events. Mm-hmm. They have those like really forced kind of organic moments, but you just kind of go with it because you've read 40 years worth of Spider-Man.
Right.
Cool. It happens here, and it's just like, all right. Like the one hero. We find out he's gay because he just like grabs a firefighter and makes out with him. Like, is that the best way to reveal that your character? First of all, that's not a reveal. And is that the best way to do it for him to just like sexually accost a survivor? It was just
I thought the guy kissed
survivor attacked him. I don't know.
That was
that did seem more consensual. That did consensual.
Well, it was a page turn, like a reveal, and it was like,
it didn't seem appropriate to the moment. It was just like,
not at all.
You just saved this guy. He was trapped under rubble, and then all of a sudden you're like, you know each other already.
You know
like, what's happening?
Now that I think about it, the fireman, he took his shot.
Oh, and sure. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, it was consensual.
All right. Yeah.
You're right. That's cool. Well, I mean, it was consensual in regards to the firefighter. Maybe the superhero didn't want to be kissed.
He seemed all about it. Plus, I think that might even amp up his powers. You know, the adulation. Yeah.
You know what? I will say, so stuff that I did like about the book. I like the idea of the hero getting more powerful based off of how many people believe in him. I think it's Captain Britain that also has the same kind of thing.
Okay.
But the one I liked the most was the originator, the language lady. In order to get something done, she creates a new word, and then it now exists in all history to get that done. So she makes up these complex words to get something done very quickly, which I thought was really cool. Like that's the most original thing in this entire book.
I think, Len, what you were saying about the art, for whatever reason, it seems like this art style is always on this type of book, like the kind of book that you're like, kind of loose and unsatisfying, didn't really grab me, that kind of thing. And I don't know why that is. Also, he's a Superman analog prize fighter. And I always kind of rate that, Sentry is a good Superman analog name and whatever. Or, prize fighter,
doesn't really sell it. I hear you.
No. And I see where you're coming from, the adoration and whatever, but I don't know. Not my thing. Kind of reminds me of MPH in Astro City, where I'm like, not the best. A little too, I don't know, pedestrian, Yeah. And Brandon had made a comment in the chat here about the reveal maybe could have been earlier. If the whole big idea of this book is that empathy has been ended, that's kind of interesting, like if they had done that, but oh man, there's
you know what, I would have even forgiven. So the big reveal in this book too is that every single one of these heroes is actually the lone survivor of an alternate Earth that was destroyed by the same thing that's now kind of on the last Earth Prime or whatever.
The lone survivor and minority president.
Lone survivor and minority. Yeah.
Yes.
That was
trying too hard a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. Every single one of them was the first president of said ethnicity and or sexual preference.
Yeah. It's
of America.
Of America. Right.
Like they are American, but very diverse. But American.
Yikes.
It's just really weird. But what I was gonna say is like even if that was literally a 2-page prologue. Just give me text and splash pages of all 5 of these characters and who they are. It's like, all right, we're in. Let's go. As opposed to that's your reveal, your plot. Like your plot setup is your reveal after kind of dealing with the last 20 pages.
Yeah. Even the first minority president from a different universe all brought to this universe thing. There's a lot about this that I don't intrinsically object to.
Yeah.
It was just the way that it was presented. Like, if that was first, and then they are also all superheroes, like, were they superheroes on their home universes? Or was that part of the transition? I don't know. But if it was just maybe laid out differently, or
again, reading that last page, the page that you have up here, by the third one, you're like, oh, he was also president?
Right.
Oh, she was also president. Cool. Like, it was like that was the bridge too far of like any kind of plausible denial.
Well, I guess that's why it's called Commanders in Crisis. I just figured out. The Commander in Chief, right? They're all Commanders in Chief.
If that was the idea that you were presented with at first, yeah, I could see that. You know, like, she brought together these people with these particular qualities to this earth. But the fact that it's the second to last thing that you see is just, I don't know, it's an odd time. Yeah.
I really wanted this. This book had a lot of buzz. I really wanted to like get into it, and the idea of I loved it. I love the concept or what they were trying to go for. Right, the idea of we're gonna do a big ass event and it's gonna be all original. Like, awesome, 12 issues. Let's do this. But it just flat on its face for me. What was it? Invincible 75, the entire event in one issue.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was an experiment. That was weird, but again, it worked in so much as it did because we at least had some sort of understanding of the characters. I don't know. You can't. I don't think that you could pull this off with just using shorthand. Because we don't have any grasp on any of these people. Like, if anything, it came off, at least for me, it came off too forced or too on the surface because you had to do it fast and loose to get to the story.
There's the End League comes to mind, which is very much a pastiche, you know, and it's not exactly an event. Like, it's its own story, but he gives you identifiable things about these characters, even though you've never met them before. You get, like, the ideas are presented. And, like, I wouldn't count this concept out. Yeah, there you go. Plus, the art is
another really omnibus.
It's an oversized hardcover. I've got it's all the Rick Remenders above me on the desk. So it's just like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'd pick up another book.
The difference with End League is that those pastiches are very recognizable.
True.
These aren't as necessarily as recognizable, so therefore you don't have any type of backstory to kind of see where they're pulling from outside of Prize Fighter. Oh, he's like all worldly, so I guess he's the Superman pastiche. But like you said, the name doesn't sell it, you know. The other guy, the sharpshooter guy, I can't even remember his name. I don't know if he was Batman, Green Arrow, or
the thing Grifter. With his synesthesia in the beginning also. So, what the hell was that? Where he's like, I used to play the violin and they studied my synesthesia, and now I do this, but I'm not a doctor. But but I guess you're right. He is kind of the like regular guy on the team, except he has powers, but they're pretty low level, I guess.
Brandon is saying, I like that part. It was cheesy, but I think it informs their characters well because it tells us they're all good leaders who also have compassion for others. Now, as someone who lives in this portion of the multiverse, just because someone is the president does not mean they're a good leader.
or possesses compassion.
Yeah.
Or empathy. Or human emotion.
Yeah.
Any of them.
That doesn't inform me anything other than they were elected, possibly not by a voter majority.
Majority, yeah.
Good at convincing people. Some people. Yeah.
But anyway, I like there's so many ideas in here that I actually quite enjoy. I think it's there is some smart stuff in here. I just don't think that the glue that holds it all together is particularly sticky. Like Let's move on to Amazing Spider-Man number 50, written by Nick Spencer with art by Patrick Gleason. Diamond has this to say: the Amazing Spider-Man reaches another landmark, and we're celebrating Spider style. Spider-Man just took the beating of his life, and we're just getting started. Kindred is stepping out on stage for the first time, and Spider-Man is not ready for the havoc that Kindred is going to let loose. So it's another landmark. Cool. Last issue, last week.
Last week was the landmark.
This is the first 50th issue of 2020.
Yes.
For Spider-Man. Landmark.
Last issue was issue 49 of the current run of Amazing Spider-Man, but it was the Legacy issue 850, and then this issue is number 50. So
this is the same series? I thought these were two different Spider-Man series.
No, this is the next issue.
What?
Yeah.
This is the very next issue.
This is madness, is what it is.
We had some issues with the last issue, I believe. And I think the biggest one was the fact that we have been dealing with this Kindred character for 50 issues, 49 last time. And we're all getting a little tired of him. We know who he is now. They finally revealed it. And it's exactly who I kind of figured it was. And but my biggest problem with this has to do with the art. So I'm going to bring it up on the screen here. And if you guys remember, last issue, the Sin Eater murdered the Juggernaut, and then that made him a giant deformed Juggernaut with like a crazy fucking triangle head, and it was nuts.
And that art was by Ryan Ottley.
Ryan Ottley and Humberto Ramos. And so we meet him in this first issue, in this very next issue, and there he is.
Mm-hmm.
He is completely dressed in his regular clothes. His mask is back on. And it just seems like there was no conversation between the artists on this. And that sort of made me go, well, wait, is this the same guy? What happened? And, it's just confusing art-wise. So I think that was a problem. Other than that, and then they spend the entire last issue protecting Norman Osborn for then, in the beginning of this issue, him, Sin Eater to come up and be like, blammo, gotcha. So it kind of undoes a lot of the drama from the last issue. Other than that, I'm enjoying it. What did you guys think? No.
The issue 850 was completely useless.
Yeah.
Like, you literally could have skipped from 48 to this. The way that like 48 ends and this begins. So the end of 48, they're about to storm on Norman to shoot him. All of 850 is just like, let's stop him, let's get him. And at the end of that issue, Peter throws him out of the life raft. And then this picks up with him being about to get shot. Just skip 850. Just take that right out. It's the same exact thread line.
Can somebody also explain to me why Spider-Man would throw master criminal Norman Osborn out of a boat instead of webbing him up and taking him back to prison?
Right.
I don't know. He must have crossed the theoretical line of being like rapey with Gwen. Like,
it was an angry response.
Yes.
Yeah.
Get out of my sight or I'll hurt you. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I can take that. Great. Thank you.
Yeah. But still, like narratively or plot wise, it had no weight whatsoever.
Nope.
Like at all. Just skip it.
Yep.
So that sucked. Otherwise, I thought this was a cool issue. And yeah, like Kindred is exactly who we thought he was maybe 28 issues ago. Or 35 issues ago. Which is really cool, and it goes back to, now we don't know which version of this character he is, but it does go back to the idea that this entire run is bringing, it seems like it's bringing the character and the character's kind of like place and cast to pre One More Day. Like it's slowly pulling all the things back to pre One More Day. The relationship with with Mary Jane, his kind of like employment status, the fact that he's not a mogul anymore. Like it's taking all of these things and all of these characters, like even the villains that he keeps like using, Killraven.
Yeah.
Yeah. Killraven, Rhino, Sin Eater. It's all that, JMS era stuff. And that's kind of what makes this run cool so far. Like that he's just pulling it all back.
What do you mean by different which version it is?
Well, I guess we're going to spoil it. If you haven't read this issue, the show's called Spoiler Alert, or at least it used to be. So we're going to spoil who the Kindred is. So skip ahead, I don't know, a little bit. We can't do it because we're doing this live. Anyway, it's Norman Osborn. I'm sorry, Harry Osborn. So there's Harry Osborn, who was pre One More Day. And I don't know what happened. That's weird. He was pre One More Day, and he already died once. And then he was resurrected, and then One More Day happened, and I guess that brought him back, right? And it turns out he was in rehab in Europe this entire time. Instead of being dead, he's back. And so we don't know, is this after the deal with Mephisto, Harry, or before the deal with Mephisto, Harry, etc.?
Yeah, so he was dead for a while, like Roger Stern killed him.
Yeah.
And then One More Day by JMS, he was back alive, and the backstory of how he was back alive was that he wasn't really dead. He was off in rehab. So this Kindred character has been in hell and knows everyone's secrets and is like up in the ranks. So the theory is that it's not Harry Osborn that's alive. It's Harry Osborn that died before Peter changed continuity with magic. So it's like that extra dead person.
Oh, that's interesting. Right. So there could be two, like there could be two Harry Osborns running around, or
that's what I'm thinking, or that's what I'm hoping. Like
that's interesting.
The one that was brought back was like, let's say, just like a pure copy.
Yeah.
And it's all good. However, in hell there was still that dead Harry that did don the Green Goblin mask and did all those terrible things. And that's this character who spent eons and eons in hell, kind of wheedling his way back. Which would be cool.
Yeah, that sounds like that's an interesting idea. I'll tell you. So I haven't been reading Spider-Man, as that probably reveals. And on the cover it says "Last Remains, Part 1," and I was like, "Oh, cool. That interesting." This was the epilogue to a different story, or the middle of a much larger story. It did kind of seem to kick off things for sure. But it had like weird elements where there was a lot going on, wrapping up other stuff, and then obviously like he runs into Doctor Strange, and you get the setup at the end. Like things are kicking off, but I thought I was coming into a blanker slate than the slate I came into. So yeah, I enjoyed it though. I haven't read Spider-Man for a while, and it was nice to see him, Peter Parker, and around.
I thought Doctor Strange knew he made the deal with Mephisto.
I don't remember.
He knows who he is, though. For whatever that matters.
He helped him do all that magic to put his identity back.
I thought that was before the New 52. I mean, Jesus Christ. I thought that was before One More Day, right? Because he revealed himself during Civil War, and then all that back, and then the deal with Mephisto, No,
that was all in Brand New Day. So the deal with Mephisto is what took away the public knowing his identity. And then during Brand New Day, they did an arc called One Moment in Time, where they went back and showed you what happened on what would have been their wedding day, and how Peter put the genie back in the bottle, and it was magic with Strange. I just thought that he knew there was a deal, that this wasn't the first time he was learning it. I assumed.
100%. Yeah. Len.
Yeah.
Cool.
What's up? Patrick Gleason does great art. Pretty book.
Well, here's the thing. I think it looks good because this particular issue has a horror bend to it, and I think that Patrick Gleason's art is very dark, and I think it reads well for this particular type of story. Overall, I don't really enjoy him on Spider-Man. I miss Otley already. I really liked Otley's art, but his last issue was the last one. So it's fine. I just, as much as I liked Gleason on Batman and Robin, I don't know if he's a perfect fit for Spider-Man. But there are certainly worse options. It's still a great looking book.
Yeah, I agree. I too was kind of like looking forward to. I like Ryan Otley art, and I like his Spider-Man. And Patrick Gleason is a very, very good artist, but sometimes even the best artists just aren't the right artist for certain characters. Much in the way that George Perez is my favorite artist of all time, but I don't like his Batman. So I'm with that. So it's a pretty book. Other than that, I too, like Brian, haven't been reading Spider-Man. Don't know much what's going on. I know enough about the Sin Eater and the Osborns and all that type of stuff that I can keep up. But I didn't care. I mean, it's pretty interesting that you can dig up corpse and they be totally decomposed except everything but their hair. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't even know that barrettes could stay on for years and years in the grave. But what would Spider-Man be if we didn't go back to Gwen Stacy? So it's whatever the fuck.
Randy has a question. He said there were some in-between issues on this run. So back during Hunted, which was the Kraven the Hunter storyline, there were like I forget the name, the actual issue numbers, but it was like 24.HU, 25.HU.
Right.
And then the very next issue this week, I already have this week's shipment, is number 50.LR, which is an in-between issue for Last Rites. And Noel, I was showing it to him, and he was, nope, I don't want it. Don't give it to me. I don't want it. I'm excited because I flipped through it, and it looks awesome. And it's got the Order of the Web, this new grouping of these classic characters that I'm really excited to see more of. So that's why I'm excited for it. But yes, there were some in-between issues.
So do those count as with the 849 legacy numbering? Those are counted as issues that, who knows, whatever they want. If they want to do a future anniversary issue, they will count them or not count them as they decide at that time.
Yeah, if it's anything like the HU stuff, some of them are going to be cool. Some of them are going to be like a drag, but overall, they may not matter. Like they're just extras or cutscenes, or this character's over here doing this thing. So I don't know. I when he showed me, I was like, fine.
I do love the Spider characters team. Like now that there's more Spider characters, for most of Spider-Man's history, there's been him and maybe a Spider-Woman around, depending on the era. But there's really been a lot more in the last, 5-10 years. And I like seeing like the cartoons where they all get together. And so I like I think that'll be a fun issue.
Brandon says that is a thing actually about hair. Hair tends to take the longest to decompose, but usually only 2 years or so. Gwen Stacy has and her father George Stacy have decidedly been dead longer than 2 years. I don't care how much you reboot the comic books; they've been dead longer than 2 years. All right, so
maybe they're wigs. Those could be new clothes and wigs that he put on them to set the scene.
Be quiet, Brian.
So anyway, more comics came out this. I mean, we could do another couple minutes on hair if you want.
No,
hold on a second.
I'd like to get into it.
Yeah. I do want to say I haven't read this issue yet, but
oh my god, we're still on next week's issue.
Yes, we are. In the same way that the book that's coming out right from DC, Death Metal. We got Death Metal, and we got a bunch of one shots, and some of those one shots felt like they should have been the next issue of that series, and they weren't. Right. This looks like it picks up exactly where the last issue. This does not look like a fill-in issue. This looks like the very next bit of the story. I don't know why they're giving it a point, other than maybe they wanted to double ship it and wanted a reason to do that. Let's move on to the next book, True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys, National Anthem #1 from Gerard Way and Sean Simon, with art and cover by Leonardo Romero. After the analog wars, the Killjoys lost their way and their memories. A rat chews through Mike Milligram's TV cord and reality unravels. But when his Ramones records disappear, Mike remembers what the Fabulous Killjoys and some toy ray guns can do. Gerard Way and Sean Simon take it all back to their original concept, rebooting the Killjoys in present-day America, where it's impossible to tell what's real and what mom and dad just tell you to keep you calm. I will be honest, I had no interest in reading this. I tried the first miniseries, which was drawn by Becky Cloonan, who is an all-time favorite of mine, and I was very excited, but I found it impenetrable. So when this one came up, I had no interest in reading it. But Noel convinced me to read it. And kicking and screaming, I dragged myself through the first couple pages of this issue going, I don't care about this. But then the switch happened, and I went, oh, I'm engaged. This is fun. The art is fantastic. The coloring is wonderful. The storyline is a little impenetrable at first, but I think if you stick with it, it is well worth your time to read this #1 issue. What do you think, Brian?
I really enjoyed it. So I did also at the beginning. I felt like I found it a little difficult to grasp onto the thread of the story, but I really like the art. It has this kind of 80s psychedelic feel to it that put me in mind of like the art from that actual time, and I liked it. I really, even though the concept didn't spring straight out at me once we started getting a hold of it, I thought it was really interesting. Although I'm still not sure that I know what it is altogether, but that's all right. Yeah, the brightness and the hard edges of the aesthetic style really took me, and I'm curious to see what Mike Milligram does from here. You know, what his next move is, or how he will get back to reality, or what reality is. Yeah, I liked it.
So I didn't read the solicit. I thought that this was a prequel, not a reboot, which is rad. So I did read the Becky Cloonan Gerard Way series. I really, really liked it at the time. I don't remember it. I don't remember what happened. But I also love the album, and I don't remember. I just remember the concept of them, right? So reading this, knowing that it was at least, I mean, at the time I thought it was a prequel, but now that it's a reboot, I was okay with the ambiguity at first because I knew that they were just dropping you in on purpose. All that was recognizable to me was the Mike Milligram character. That's it. So
do you want to tell the people the very, very brief description of like what this is?
Sure. So the Fabulous Lives of the Killjoys. What's the full title? Fabulous Lives.
The True Lives of the Fabulous
Killjoys. So the True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys is Dangerous Days. The True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys is a concept album from My Chemical Romance that came out in, I want to say, like 2007 or 2008. It's a rock album.
It's good.
Not unlike it's very good. It's actually my favorite album of theirs.
So good.
It's a concept album that tells the story of this ragtag group, this gang called the Killjoys in a post-apocalyptic world after the analog wars that they lost. So it's just like rebels in a think of it as Mad Max. However, it's incredibly colorful and their weapons look like Nintendo guns. So it's that kind of like fun aesthetic. The album itself tells the last story of the Killjoys, because at the end they don't make it, and big business wins. The first comic series by Gerard Way and Becky Cloonan is set decades after the album. So the idea of the Killjoys are urban legend, and it's these new characters who kind of find the remnants of what they were and kind of take the mantle up and fight big corp, right? So like that's that sequel series. This I thought was just going to be a prequel. Takes place before the album, like the early days of the Killjoys in their fight. But it seems as though it's a retelling of maybe, it is a prequel, but it seems like it's getting towards maybe retelling all the stuff that happened before the album, or at least maybe retelling the album. I don't know, but it's a rife with potential. If you've never watched them, it's actually really cool. They did for the album. They did a bunch of JD mentioned it. They did a bunch of videos that stitched together are a bit of a movie. Like a half-hour movie of music videos of the characters. The Killjoy characters are the band members, and the main bad guy is Grant Morrison, the actual Grant Morrison, dressed up in the creepy white costume. Those are awesome, and the music's awesome. But yeah, that's the Killjoys. It's this IP that exists, but it's not very popular. However, it does have very fervent fans.
Is the reality alteration stuff part of, like, is that always part of the story, or is that new to this series?
It's more a thematic thing.
Okay.
It's the idea that so the analog wars that they refer to, I think, is this kind of thing where the speaker box is telling you what to do. So in the story of the record and the other book, the only place that they get real information is the radio, the AM and FM waves, because those can't be manipulated by big business and internet and television and mind numbing. So this idea of erasing your identity with media is an overall theme for all of them.
Nice.
Very cool. I didn't quite grasp that from the first miniseries or what I read of the first miniseries. I think here it's explicitly, it's like very easy for me to tune in, no pun intended. I think it's really cool. It's sort of like, what's that movie, John Carpenter, They Live?
With
It's
the
like
sunglasses?
Consume, buy, sleep. It's these hidden messages that are sprinkled throughout our pop culture from, I believe, Aliens, I think is from the movie, that's what they come from. But yeah, I like how there's a different kind of version here where it actually seems to alter his reality, and things start poking through, and by the end he has discovered, and remembered himself. And I like, because he looks for his Ramone records, this whole conversation, this is right up my alley. There's a whole conversation about the Clash in here that we sort of tune in on just a little bit. And then he gets upset because he can't find his Ramones albums. The Ramones albums exist, but they have been sort of changed to be...
The Raymonds? Was it the Raymonds? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like much cleaner looking and stuff like that. And he's like, wait a minute, where are my Ramones album? And he's like, wait a minute, this isn't right. And so I really had a chuckle at that. I thought that was awesome. Yeah, this. I'm convinced this series is pretty good.
That's it's such a good theme too. The idea that the main character's passion about a specific art is what knocks him out of the mindless droll or the brainwashing. Like that is very much a larger theme with all of these things. The idea that rebellion is an artistic, or is a form of artistic expression, which is really, really cool.
Yeah. Len, did you care for this at all?
Oh, sure. No, I
What a response! You
That
don't have to like the book, Len.
It was like, it's so nice you guys enjoy comics. Anyway.
I wanted to like it. I kind of got what it was going for. Everything didn't really 100% land with me, but I appreciated the attempt. I appreciated the attempt to do something different. So, I don't want to knock it. I just think it's a book that looks cool, feels cool. I don't think it's for me. So that's the best I can say about it. So I don't want to knock it because I do think it's well done and well written, and the art is great, and it's very evocative and everything like that. And there were parts that I was engaged in, but for the most part, it just didn't land with me.
I'm looking at I brought up a panel here, which I really quite like. The artist or the colorist has taken the black line art and colored it red. And I think that's really cool because it's a shocking moment for the character. And so I like that they have adjusted the colors to reflect that just ever so slightly. I just think it's kind of cool.
What did you guys think of the before we move on to the next book, what did you guys think of the captions? I had a lot of trouble with them the first couple of pages, and then I realized it's supposed to be read kind of like a noirish voiceover in almost a beat poetry style. It took me like 2 or 3 pages to really accept it. And then
I found it off.
I didn't like it. I didn't like it. But after a while, I got what they were doing, and I was like, okay, fine. And it stopped kind of impeding the story. But it was a high hurdle to get past right off the bat.
Yeah.
Like, you have to just buy into weird. Period. There's no inching into it.
Agreed. I would not have started off the book like that.
It did,
Right.
you know, the beginning of the book was a little hard to get into, and I didn't pin it on the captions, but maybe that was part of it. They didn't make much of an impact for me, to answer your question, one way or the other. But spilling it all out there like that maybe was not the most grabbing you kind of way to do it.
See, I think that first scene, the scene that JD has up right now, which I believe is like the opening of the book, is very cool, and it's a very cool way to introduce you into the story. And I felt the writing there was definitely very pulpy, and I was into it. But I think it then pulls so far away from it in the succeeding pages that that feel was lost for me. And then I just didn't know what I was reading, and I was just like, I'm done with this.
Yeah, understandable. That was my reaction to the very first issue years ago.
Yeah, and this too is just so interesting. Like they show you visually mom and dad, and then later in the book they keep making references to mom and dad would have done this, mom and dad would have done that, and you have to remember like, oh, they're making reference to media and television, not necessarily actual parents. Like there's a lot of there's a lot of literal and completely illiteral threads that they introduce and plop out. It's very poetic.
See, I thought mom and dad were actually represented in these two TV screens. Like these are two figures that maybe not that they are TVs, but that only communicate through those TVs. Do you think they're more metaphoric for all
metaphor.
media?
Yeah, I took it as a metaphor.
In the same way Big Brother is, a thing.
Sure.
I think Mom and Dad is this version of that for this series.
I mean, I was thinking they were a tangible thing, though, like even if not just two people, like that they were raised specifically by these two entities that,
I don't think so. I think it was...
Yeah. No, I think you guys are right. The more that I look at this, the opening. But no, I didn't get that.
It's a commentary on, when parents just plop their children in front of the television.
Right.
And they used to call it the babysitter.
Right.
Yeah.
But instead of just being like watched, you're literally being honed and raised.
Right.
Yeah. Let's move on to We Live #1 from Roy Miranda and Inaki Miranda. The year is 2084, and the world has changed. Wrecked by calamities and crawling with monsters, the last remaining humans face a dangerous existence. And now, the Earth has sent a message from the deepest reaches of space, a dark countdown to the extinction of all humanity. But there is hope! 5,000 children will be rescued by these mysterious message senders. This is the journey of Hototo, one of the lucky 5,000, but only if his teenage sister, Tala, can safely deliver him to the nearest beacon before time runs out. I was prepared to love this book, mostly because everyone else in our little circle here said it was amazing, and they loved it. And then I read it last night, and I thought it was fine. What did you guys love about it so much?
I love this fucking book. Look. I don't know where you're going, but I'm going. I'm going in. I've been waiting.
I was going to you. I didn't mean to do that. I meant to do this. There you go.
Yo, this book was fantastic. This, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce you into how to do a issue #1 of a story that you've not read before a world where you've not been to before, a universe that you are just entering in and making it feel very evocative as well as user-friendly for you. From the beginning of this book, where it sets it up, the first page of this book is very noirish. You got this old grizzled man sitting there, looking like he's an old man at his post, you know, and the story tells you about what's going on. And then it cuts to almost a children's school film strip of filling in the entire backstory of what happened in this universe in a very kid-friendly way, but that is still smart, intelligent, very nicely done. It plays fair with the audience. It gets all of that exposition out of the way, and then boom, you are into the story, you are caught up, and now you want to see, all right, well, who is living this living this life that they have been set up in these 3 pages very smartly. And then boom, it takes you into these 2 little kids, and you can instantly feel like the mother and son relationship between this very little sister and even younger brother. The dynamics have been set up, you know, the perils that they have to take to reach this station so that they can be one of the 5,000 that are going to leave. And the whole time this is all playing out, you're realizing that there's this caravan that is picking up these kids to take them to be safe, even though they know that they are going to die. These kids are going someplace to leave the earth, and they're being led there by companions who know that they will be dying because the world is about to end. All of that dread is right on top of you on this story, and yet you're still involved in the character. You're still involved. It's got humor, it's got pathos, it's got action, it's got drama, and then at the end, it's just a heartbreaking kind of like way to back you into the origin of your 2 protagonists that you've been following, and it's a heartbreaking. You realize how they have been set up on this journey, and it just tears at your heartstrings. And I was like, oh my God, this book, I swear I closed this book and said, wow, this was good. The art is just great. It's clear, even though it's busy where it needs to be, but it pulls back when it has to. The storytelling is fantastic. There is nothing wrong with this book. It's imaginative, it's smart, it's intelligent, it's beautiful, it's sentimental. Damn, this book was good. This was so good. It's one of the best comics I've read in a long, long time.
That's awesome. Yes. I love to hear that. Brian.
I totally agree. I really enjoyed it. I thought the art was captivating, well drawn, but also what they chose to draw. You know, the fantasy, kind of like science fantasy elements of this post-apocalyptic or post and imminently pre-apocalyptic world that they have set up.
It's like post-apocalyptic.
Right,
exactly.
They've been through like 3 apocalypses.
Yeah. I thought, the shot of the old man and him not being the main character, but a fairly important character. I thought that was like, he develops well. You know, that character develops well. Also, nice character work on the older sister, where she's a kid. She found a bracelet. She could have just put it on, but she gave it to her younger brother, which tells you a lot about who that character is. And similarly, world building wise, you've got this kid, Hototo, which I think is also a great name, has this lizard, and he's like, oh no, we can keep these. The other ones are poisonous. It's just this little like 1 sentence world descriptor that I think really succeeds. And the thing with the niece, that's what I thought you were mentioning when you said the heartbreaking thing at the end, where the little girl who would have gone gets bitten by that mutation and turned into one. I also liked Cormac's is the motel that we see. and the words that we see are "How's the road?" And Cormac McCarthy wrote the post-apocalyptic "The Road." So I thought that was a cool, a cool little thing. And this bus is cool. Yeah, I was a little predisposed to like it because Len had already said how much he liked it, and I love to, I'll let myself like something whenever there's an opportunity, but I loved it. It was enjoyable. Did you guys do the QR code things? Anybody do that? I did the first one, and I thought it was interesting, but I didn't keep up with it.
I read about this book coming out, I want to say a month or so ago, keep an eye out. And I'd been hoping for an Aftershock comic I could jump onto just to give it a shot. And I was blown away by how much I liked this. I thought that this was perfect. This was my favorite thing I read this week. It might have been my favorite thing I read this month. This was beautiful. This is peak Robert Kirkman style storytelling, where there are so many things introduced and so many plates that are spinning in one issue, but none of them feel short shrifted or set aside. It's just masterful in how they introduce all of these complex conflicts, and you're in it and you understand what's going on. I thought this was perfect. I don't know where it's going to go from here. I don't know if I'll feel the same way, but as a first issue, this did so much with so little, and it was perfect. I loved it.
I got a little vibe of Undiscovered Country. Is that what the other one that we?
A little bit, yeah.
But that's good.
There's so much groundwork that this had to lay, and it does it so masterfully. We're talking about 3 different apocalypses, mutated animals, overgrown Earth, alien invasion, precognitive secondary alien invasion, a caravan across the country for to save 5,000 children, which is just based off word.
We don't know if that's actually, or so they say.
So
there
are so many things happening. Cool. The mutations, and then so I thought that this was going to be, more than halfway through it. It's a little bit more all ages, and it's a lot of heavy stuff, but it's still the perspective of a young girl and her younger brother. And then they introduce this kind of zombie fast turn plant-based thing and kill a small child. So this book isn't only at that level, it's on this level. It's just, this was I loved this so much. I read it twice.
This thing at the end was cool too. I don't always read back matter like this, but I found myself reading it, and I was like, that was worthwhile. That was a cool world building.
That was a question. It was a question I had during the. Yeah. That was. I had the idea of, all right, so why can't somebody else just take the band and go up? Cool. Yeah. And they in a far, what's the game? Fallout. In a Fallout style, kind of show you an infographic of what would happen if somebody took your band, which was really cute. What was it? Rise of the Ultramen did that in their first issue. They had these kind of back matter kind of one-page stories about what's a kaiju in a very childish kind of way, which was great.
Yeah, those are cool.
There was an interesting storytelling beat that they took. I don't know if JD, if you could put the book back up and go to page 10. And on page 10, Hototo has gone into this house, and you kind of see that it's empty, and his sister comes and takes him out, come on, we gotta go meet, catch the bus. And then you see them on their way to the bus. But then on the next page is a return to that house, and you see what actually was in that house. You see the horror that he couldn't see in that house. And I thought that was a real interesting storytelling moment to present that at the top of the page, because a lot of times, and present it in just that one top panel, because in a lot of books that would have been a splash page, which would have made it a little bit more sensationalized or gratuitous. This is just a little touch. You only need to see what really happened there, and you're wondering why did this guy kill himself and all this type of stuff. It's just a smart storytelling beat.
I think
the two most sorry, go ahead, Brian.
Oh, just real quick, the fact that they do it, as you said, just right at the top of that other page, kind of puts you more in the mind of those characters, right? Because this isn't something that he saw; it's out, you know.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like the idea that the two most horrific things that happen in this issue are done in kind of this style where the color palette completely changes. You're kind of taken away, like. The main characters are completely out of view, so it's almost like you're witnessing the fringes of the perspective that the rest of this book is in.
Yeah.
In those, so like in this one panel, but then in the one sequence where the little girl is taken care of, and then later in conversation, they'd say like, "Well, what happened to her? She's fine. Don't worry about it."
Yeah.
So, like we're almost witnessing, and maybe like going forward they'll do this, but you've got the perspective of the bus driver, which is kind of this real world view. But then also the superhero perspective of Hototo and his sister.
Yeah.
And if they keep balancing these as well, this man, I loved this book.
Who here thinks that the 5,000 children are actually going to be saved?
Oh no, I don't think so at all.
They might wind up okay, but I don't think it's like, oh, now that we've gotten to this other world, everything's cool.
I think they're like offerings.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen this setup quite a bit in post-apocalyptic films where we have one final hope and all we have to do is get to the encampment in Chicago and they have everyone safe there from the zombies. They finally have a utopia where we're going to be safe. And then every time they get there and they're like, they're all dead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it feels like a setup for that sort of thing where it's like, we've got this last shining beacon of hope and I don't know. I don't think we're going to get what we think we're going to get.
To your point too, same rules apply for my enjoyment of this. Like if this is going to be 75 issues of meandering the next town, the next mission, I am going to dislike it.
Yeah.
However, this idea of this one, like this first hurdle or this first arc of getting to the drop point, whatever happens from that point out, whether it's the end of the book or the stage of what's next, then we'll reassess. But as for this one journey, I'm in.
Yeah, it's off to a good start. Yeah. I just wasn't, I also, I read it at like 2 a.m, so that may have skewed my my judgment of it. But I just was like, oh, this is cute. It's fine. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the final book of the week, Dark Knight's Death Metal #4 by Scott Snyder and Craig Capullo. Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman are trapped in nightmare worlds within the dark multiverse. They'll need to face down their fiercest foes once again if they hope to accomplish their mission and bring back a power capable of stopping the darkest night. But what horrors has he unleashed on Earth while they've been locked away? So my initial reaction to this issue is that I have already read the previous issues. And most of this is reminding me of the last couple of one-shots that I've already read. So, not sure why they did that. They could have just made those other issues part of the series and then have to do a recap for half of an issue. But otherwise, it was fine, I guess. I just didn't feel like it was an entirely important issue this time around. What did you think, Brian?
We had all kind of discussed that earlier. That a lot of it was a recap, and so going into it, I was prepped for that and not too excited. But I found that to only be like the first 2 or 3 pages.
Okay.
Yeah, like they do the recap. You've got Sergeant Rock and Ambush Bug run out, and then after that, I mean, it's all new stuff. They might do a little bit of like text balloon kind of touching on something else. I really like this issue. And maybe that was because I was going into it here like, the guys didn't like it, maybe I won't, and so I was pleasantly surprised. I thought Superboy Prime's turn was great. That was actually probably my only problem with the issue, was that I really would have liked to see that antenna destruction, like a splash page of that, rather than this weird thing that they throw in. I guess like there's supposed to be chapter breaks, but they just feel like they're an ad or something, so I moved past them. You guys know what I'm talking about? The all blue.
Yeah.
I was glad that Superboy Prime, it was like, no, you can have that universe. It'll be one of the infinite. And that he turned it around, because I mean, initially he's a Superman, he was a good guy. So it's nice to see that. I liked Wonder Woman's speech that Superman's a shot in the dark. I was a little underwhelmed that it was like, oh, the thing that they were trying to do didn't work out, and now the what is his name, Darkest Knight, is more powerful than ever.
Oh,
All
knew. I 100% knew, because this is what happened in the last series, where they like, oh, all of our hopes are pinned against this one thing. Oh, we failed.
I just thought it was going to take longer, or there would be more. I didn't realize they would outright, like, nope.
I'll be back.
Now hearing this, yeah. All right. Anyway,
I thought that this was the weakest issue of the entire series so far. I agree with what JD had mentioned, and it wasn't just that there was a recap of the last like 3 one-shots. That's fine. The story retreaded what happened in those issues too. It wasn't just that there was a recap page; it was a complete story retread. So the screen he's got here is a retread of that whole issue. Even the Superboy Prime turn, which happened off panel, was too quick, and it was absolute bullshit. Even that was a redo of what Tinian did 1,000 times more enjoyably in the other issue with Owlman. The idea of convincing this villain who remains a villain to help because it benefits him to help, not because he has a change of heart or, oh yes, I'll get my world back. No, he is who he is, but you just have to appeal to him. This whole thing of Prime, who is any auspices of him being a hero have been gone for a very, very long time. He has destroyed worlds, murdered hundreds of thousands of people. He's a bad guy, period. And for them to make that turn off page and just like skip what actually happened was just stupid. I really did not like this issue at all.
I agree with you, especially on that take about Superboy Prime, because to your point about Owlman, at the end of the day, even though the turn Owlman makes, he still is very much being Owlman. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he doesn't change character.
He doesn't change character. This is a total flip on what Superboy Prime has grown to be. You know what I mean? If you want to say Superboy Prime, when the idea was first created, he was some altruistic guy, sure. But life happens and he's turned, and this turn is just feels false, and it feels all the more false because, like you said, it happens off camera. And not only does it happen off camera, off screen, or off panel, or however you want to say it, it also happens like the last thing we saw was him ready to throw a punch. Like we don't even see like a moment.
Yeah, that's just it. Like, not only is it hard to believe, it happens off panel, off page. It doesn't happen at all. It's just like next thing, he's on the team and everyone else is cool with it. Also, not only is he on the team and everyone's cool with it, in between the pages, he took the other 2 heroes from their universes and
got them there. Like, how did that work?
So much shit happened and they showed none of it. This was
maybe the worst issue of the series that takes place. Like the next one shot is this,
which would be an even more egregious thing. This is supposed to be the spine book. This is where the bigger stuff happens.
So I will say though, I thought his characterization made, like, his deal has always been as a villain, like, you let us down. I liked the bright, shiny heroes of pre-Crisis. So I saw his turn as not being so antithetical. Like, I'm not saying he's like a hero now, but I could see him making that compromise. Like, well, there'll be an infinite worlds, and one of them will be the one that
make the case. Absolutely,
yeah.
Make the case on the page because you're telling a story.
Well, I thought Wonder Woman made that. Like, I got that. The part that I didn't get was like, well, we should see him. Just one splash page of him punching that Citadel would have been fine, or antenna would have been fine for me.
This was just plot moving. I didn't enjoy. Like, I honestly didn't want to talk about this issue, but you won. I don't hate the series. This is just easily the weakest one to talk about because it was a recap and then everything happened on panel. It was every single
and also
every
the
single
way it
time
ended.
we talked.
You know, like nothing
that was
moved
stupid.
forward really.
Single time.
Yeah.
Every single time that we talked about Heroes in Crisis, and I was like, there's nothing new to say. There's nothing new to say. It was always the same conversation of all the interesting stuff we're told about, and it happens off panel. Oh, all that interesting stuff that we wanted to see, we were told about, and it happens off panel. So it got to the point where it was just a drudge talking about it. That's how I felt about this issue. Like, I would have been totally happy just skipping this bitch. Because
I'll tell you,
I still love the series. I still love the series, and I'm having fun with it. But as single issue goes, this was definitely the weakest of the not 4, like 8,
7 or so. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
The other 3, it's also the tie-ins that I'm reading, which all of them are enjoyable. This was the one that felt just okay.
I do agree with you on that. Like I enjoyed it, but it is the weakest of the bunch for sure. Like nothing really went down that by the end of it, you're left in about the same spot, you know?
Right. Brandon Jackson said that, hey, I hated this issue, but I thought the turn, talking about Superboy Prime, was fit. He's always been a gullible idiot, so it makes sense that Wonder Woman convinced him so easily.
That's a good point, Brandon.
I guess
show me.
He is very swayable. Yeah.
I'm not even fighting against that he's swayable. It's just the fashion in which they did it was so it was performative, and it was to check off a box. It wasn't telling a story.
Yeah,
I got a question. I'm glad JD's back here because I got a question in regards to the art by Greg Capullo. And I find myself, while I'm not going to knock Greg Capullo as an artist per se, the man can draw, but I find myself not enjoying his art less and less because there is a little bit too much of a sameness to his characters to me. And because of that, I get less engaged with his art.
So I think that while Greg Capullo is great for this type of book, I'm not entirely sure his strengths lie in emoting his characters, expressing nuanced facial movements and stuff. I think of Jim Lee a lot, where Jim Lee does a great pin-up, but you don't get Jim Lee for nuanced conversations happening in a diner where there's a lot of emoting and you need an emotional response from your characters.
He could do stoicism and grimacing. That's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's perfect for this book, but I don't know if I wouldn't put him on anything. Or I mean on everything. Since you're on the last book, let me submit a review of Hellion. Cable, New Mutants, 3 books, 2 more swords. That's all. Thank you for catching me up. I'm behind on the 10 of Swords, so now I feel like I'm appropriately caught up.
Yes, you are.
JD, before we move on, I have a question for you. Did you see this small pumpkin that I showed earlier in the show?
Oh my God, it's so cute!
It's so small. And this, it reminds me about the website Patreon.com. Do you have anything to say
understandable.
about that? Yeah.
Well, pumpkin, Patreon, the alliteration is there. I totally understand. If anyone wants to help the show out, you can go to patreon.com/JohnnyTheStructo, which is up on the screen below you. If you want to help us, that'd be great. The Patreon may help buy Brian some new headphones for the podcast this week.
Right here.
So we appreciate it. Thank you so much for everyone who donates. Anyone who can't donate, we love you just as much. Please just like, subscribe, share, do all that stuff that you
comment below.
To show love. Oh, comment below because comments help our live streams, I guess. So thank you so much for asking, Brian.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you for seeing my small pumpkin that I brought on.
Okay, so Len, take it away.
Yes.
Hi.
Oh,
Gutter talk.
Oh, I didn't know if we were doing that because you sounded like you were kind of like wrapping up. So I was like, okay, I didn't know. But so
I was, but then Gutter Talk showed up at the bottom, so I said, "Oh, go ahead."
Oh, I didn't even see it.
No, I thought it was the middle. That's why I brought up the Patreon thing. I thought that.
Yeah, sure. Let's do Gutter Talk. Let's do a little bit of Gutter Talk. let's get outside the panels of these comic books, and let's get into the white spaces, and let's talk about the stuff that happens in the world of comic book and genre entertainment. That's called Gutter Talk. All right. Now, one of the things that actually was introduced, and I don't know if we're bringing on Brandon for this, but one of the
yeah, sure. Let's do Gutter Talk.
One of the things that happened recently was that DC has announced that at the end of all this death metal, Dark Knight stuff, they are going to be doing 2 books of a line-wide event called Future State, where they're giving you kind of like their vision, if you will.
Not 2 books, 2 months.
No, well, I thought I said 2 months. Yes, 2 months. It's going to be running for 2 months. It's called Future State, and it's going to be line-wide as they give you this vision of what the DC universe will look like. And I don't think they've set exactly like where in the future this is supposed to be. At least I didn't read that. They've got all of these different, some of your favorite comic book creators and some new ones are going to be working on books that they haven't done before or giving their updated vision. They've got people from outside like John Ridley, Academy Award winning John Ridley coming in to write a Batman book. And wanted to get everybody's take on exactly what do they think of this whole future state thing that's happening. I saw that Brandon was with us for a minute. I don't know if he'll be returning. Hopefully he does, because I know Brandon has thoughts. But no, I'm sure you have thoughts about future state, don't you?
I do got thoughts. I'm gonna actually pull out my notes on these thoughts. I love, like, inherently I do love initiatives, like the idea of taking your line and doing something like kind of fun and different with it. However, the success of said initiatives has been all over the map, whether they've been like fun or good. But like the reality is, most of the time, like some of it's really good, some of it's really skip it. And
right.
I read the entire solicits, the deluge of stuff. I had to kind of sift through to see exactly what I would be interested in reading, because to me it doesn't seem like there's no, other than these all just being future stories, there's no cohesion that makes it an event. It's just a bunch of like Elseworlds instead of the normal titles, which is fine. So I like anything else, all I did was like go through all the solicits to see which creative teams I'd want to follow, and that's it. As for adopting this entire thing as like, holy shit, it's going to be a tome, it's going to be great. No, I don't think so. It's going to be more like 5 years later was, where it's just across the board for the whole month. Every issue is 5 years later, and some of them are going to be great. Some of them are going to be like, what, why? And you'll forget about them. So like, it's got potential, but I did write down all the ones that I'm incredibly excited about. You mentioned some of them, which were the 2 Batman ones. The Next Batman by John Ridley with art by Nick Darrington.
Yeah.
And The Dark Detective, which is the other Batman book, written by Mariko Tamaki with art by Dan Mora.
Now, here's the thing about those books, because reading the solicits, the Future State Next Batman, number 1 through 4, is going to feature the stories The Next Batman by John Ridley and Nick Darrington, The Outsiders by Brandon Thomas and Sumit Kumar, Arkham Knights by Paul Jenkins and Jack Herbert, Batgirls by Rita Alia and Aniki, and Gotham City Sirens by Paula Sevenbergen and Amalia Lapachano. So
the structure of this is ridiculous. So what they did was they factioned all of the books into like 3 pillars: Batman family, Superman family, which includes Wonder Woman, and Justice League. Every single one of those pillars has anthology books, 2 anthology books, I believe.
Yes.
Which are like have a main story, but then a bunch of backups. So, and those are bi-monthly. So you've got 4 issues of The Next Batman. The main story, which is probably going to be like 10 pages, is the Nick Darrington, John Ridley, and then they'll take turns doing backups of the ones you just read in that issue. So they're going to be like digests, 4 digests over 2 months.
Okay.
And then, yeah, so it's weird. Like it's the main story is the next Batman story, but then there'll be like, you know, 2 of the issues will have little one shots or one-off stories of Catwoman or the Batgirls or stuff like that. And that, but to make it even more confusing, they have separate mini-series that aren't related to the anthology books. That some of them are monthly, some of them are bi-monthly, some of them are 3 issues, some of them are their own anthologies, some of them are one-shots. So like it's like a shotgun blast of stuff across the bow with no real structure or cohesion other than a banner and it's the future. That's it.
Brandon, you're with us. What are your thoughts on Future State? Before you do, I just want to note that action figure experts. So in other words, this future said is just another Kingdom Come. We'll get to that, get to your question. And Samuel David says, I'm telling you, the creative teams are pretty good, but it sounds like a whole bunch of books to buy in a 2-month span. Brandon Jackson Shorts, welcome to the show.
Hello.
What's your take on Future State?
I'm excited for it. And that's surprising because I've seen a lot of people say it's a lot like Future's End. That's kind of what Noel was saying. And it's funny, Future's End is the only book that I tell people not to read. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I usually tend to be I usually give things some leeway. Future's End, no, I hate it. But I think with this, like every book, like every event has potential to be great or awful. And I think I'm excited for this. I'm excited. I hope that it'll be on the great side.
I don't think it's an event.
Yeah. True. Yeah.
I would use the word event.
More like era.
Initiative. It's a publishing initiative. Yeah.
But it's not. I don't feel like that because I feel like that's usually like a little more long term. This reminds me of more of a like.
Picture like Tangent Comics. Well, this is before your time, Brandon, but I don't know if you've heard of it. DC did it for like 1 or 2 months. They did a totally different thing.
It's more like it's more like Convergence,
right? It's Convergence or Future's End, same thing.
But see, Future's End was 1 month. Like every single one of those New 52 issues just had one issue, right?
True, but then there was also the whole like Future's End book that was like a whole year. So
see, I actually think this is more like DC. What was it? DC 1 million.
Yeah,
every book just had a millionth issue all of a sudden, and that had nothing to do with what was happening. Yeah, it's just just a stunt that they did, and this is the stunt that they're doing, and they're blowing it up. And I honestly think what it is because. I wouldn't be surprised is that they are very excited about the sales from Dark Metal and that being a way for them to tell these, Elseworldian type of stories with their characters. And they let's just lean into it for 2 months and just have a great time with it.
I think a lot of people have been speculating this, and I think it's the case where they were going to do 5G. They couldn't do 5G because, they decided not to do 5G. And so they needed something to do for that time span. And this is, to me, a lot like Convergence was, where Convergence was like they were moving offices, so they needed something to do in the interim, and that's what Convergence was. I think with this, it's like I think they were setting things up for 5G, and now they have to rework things, and this is like an in-between thing to give them time to do that.
Oh, no, I think this is 5G.
Yeah.
But I think this is...
No, this is all the stuff that they had baking beforehand, and they've just repurposed it into this Future State thing for 2 months while they, clean the rest of their house. Right. This is the stuff that they all had been pre-working on in order to get 5G going. Not unlike New 52, where it's just like we had to have a bunch of stuff in the can. That's all of this. This was supposed to. I do think that this was all supposed to be new continuity, and now it's just a 2-month one-off while new creative teams shuffle.
I guess it's possible,
if any of these things hit really hard, it's going to be its own little spin-off book and its own little corner of a universe or whatever. But other than that, I think that this is them salvaging work that they already had.
Yeah, in the I think it's like a mix. I don't think this was exactly what 5G was going to be, but I do think it's definitely pulling from that in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think Noel's exactly right. That they were going to do a continuity change, but that part's not happening anymore, which is also, yeah, I mean, that was, DiDio did a lot of that. Like, what if we changed everything? And, and I think you're right also about, like, there's going to be some of these that are awesome and then some of them that aren't. It won't succeed or fail as a whole. It'll just be individual books are either cool or not.
A lot of this stuff was done and was worked on. So it wasn't we've got this stuff on paper, let's just pivot. It's we have this stuff finished and we have to rebrand it so it's not a waste. Like, so it's not 5G. It is 5G. They just tweaked it. Some of this stuff. Like, I think it's more of a cut and paste than, I mean, it's a very appealing and really cool looking cut and paste. And I was telling JD last night, I wrote down all the ones that I'm interested in reading. It's if you're adopting them all, it's a very aggressive endeavor. But I was like, you know what, too? Give me all the normal covers because the text, like the cover treatment is beautiful with the cool like neon. Like, I think it's really, really slick. But I also think that it's not unlike Convergence. It's going to be, there's only going to be like one or two standouts. For Convergence, it was really only like Lois and Clark because that actually became continuity. But other than that, all that stuff was just kind of like, let's not talk about.
That's an interesting thing because if you look at the Justice League cover, Naomi is on it. And so it's interesting on whether or not, like I was talking to someone online, I was like, well, that has potential to either be good or bad because on the one hand, does Naomi go to the future? That could be interesting. Or we don't know where her book takes place. Does it take place in the future? Because if it does, that kind of sequesters her from everything else, which wouldn't be that great.
Well, no, she's
we know
her book is in current continuity.
Yeah.
Is it? But like, has
we've
she?
seen other people.
Oh, sorry, not Naomi. Joe from Far Sector is who I'm talking
about. That's what I figured you were talking about. When you said that, I said, oh, you're thinking about Far Sector, right?
Yeah, she's on the cover? Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, she's on the cover of Justice League. And so it's like,
she's kind of sequestered anyway, though. You know what I mean? And that's a little bit of what works for that book is that it's so different from everything else.
But that's what he's saying. So what does it mean for her to now be?
But when it ends, I'd like to see her, at some point interact with like Jon Stewart and like the other,
Right.
Yeah. Also, too, this is DC for the month of January and February. There's like, I think they've got like one issue of like the last issue of Death Metal and Batman, Catwoman. The Black Label book is coming out, and like some of some Black Label stuff. But for the most part, this is DC for 2 months. This is what you're getting.
And that's interesting because I know Sam was saying like this seems like it's going to be a lot of books to pick up, but I remember. Like when Convergence was coming out and like Secret Wars, when they did that whole thing, towards the end of that, I was not reading any books from the respective publishers because the books I liked ended and I wasn't picking up everything and the ones I liked were done. And so then I just wasn't getting any book. So I feel like it has potential to reverse for some people where like, oh, maybe you're just not going to, maybe once your books are done, you just might not be interested in anything.
It's possible. I have a question about Joe on the cover though. Is she in the same costume? Because I'm looking at her now, but it's a very small image. It looks like she could be older. You know what I mean? Like this could be just an older version of it.
So future for her.
Yeah.
It's similar. It's similar enough to like know that it's Joe as to how or when. Who knows?
Yeah.
So just to allay some fears, hopefully, that at least there's a chance that she's not from the future all along.
Oh, so can I tell you guys the ones that I'm very interested in reading?
I was just about to ask you that, Noah. What are the ones?
So other than the two Batman ones, because I just love the creative teams, Immortal Wonder Woman. So there's two Wonder Woman books. Immortal Wonder Woman is the one that's being written by Becky Cloonan with art by Jen Bartel. That's ridiculous, and that creative team could get me to read like. Illustrated phone book.
Legion
of Superheroes I'm very excited about, which is Bendis and Riley Rossmo. So it's going to be visually very weird and quirky. And I think the title treatment actually said it was Legion 5000. So it's going to be the future of the future, which is really kind of fun.
No, you know what that means, Brian?
What does it
The
mean?
Adult Legion of Superheroes.
Oh, yeah, it does.
The other that I thought was really, really cool, which I wasn't cool until I kind of read the solicits, was Nightwing. I don't know who the writer is, but it's Interiors by Nicola Scott, which should be an automatic buy. Superman versus Imperious Lex, which seems like it's the skip title, but it's written by Mark Russell with art by Steve Pugh.
Wait, that sounds good. That sounds good.
That's awesome. And the last one being
Billionaire Island, right? Is that
yeah.
Okay.
Well, Mark Russell and that team did Billionaire Island.
Was it
but then and the last one that I asked to pick up was Future State Wonder Woman with the new Wonder Woman with her cool like bolos. I think that looks really, really cool, and I'm hoping that it's a cool character to follow. But other than that, like all the Flash stuff, the Justice League stuff, I'm just gonna wait to hear. Like it didn't explicitly excite me, and I like with stuff like this, like with Convergence and Future State, with stuff like this, because it's all nebulous and we're not sure. I only go off of creative teams. Like if it's a writer that I like to follow, or if it's an artist that I really, really love, I'll try it. If there's X factors, it's like I'll find out later because that hurts the wallet. If you
like
buy all of them.
You know?
Yeah, the anthology books are bi-monthly and they're $7.99.
Yeah,
really,
it's a lot. Yeah,
and that's going to be your replacement for Batman. It's also $4 more. It's
luckily you do get the upside of that is like I probably wouldn't pick up a book about every story that's in those books, but I want to see, nothing springs to mind, but the Justice League Dark or whatever. But I probably wouldn't get the whole line. Whereas this way, I'm like, all right, I'll get Batman, and then I also get these other two stories. So there's
do you guys remember those Tales of the? I mean, remember like they were long ago. It was earlier this year. The Tales of the DC. The Dark Multiverse.
There's more of those coming out too. Did you know?
Yes, there are.
Yeah.
Yay.
So some of them were pretty fun one shots. Yeah. Some of them were just awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what this kind of feels like. Some of them are going to be really, really cool. Some of them are just going to be like.
Now, for this kind of thing, I do a little bit of a different calculus where I'll pick up. I didn't really look at the creative teams, but if there's a cool creative team, I'll get it. Like Nick Darrington, I'm like, all right, I'll buy it. So I was looking at what's the cover look like what characters, and ooh, that looks like it. Ooh, how could this play out was what got it for me. So I'll tell you what, I upped my comics subscriptions with JD more than they've been for some time. I'm trying everything out other than I think Harley Quinn is off the list and maybe Catwoman. Everything else I'm in. Yeah.
What about you, Brandon? Any of them stand out for you?
He's out.
I looked at the solicits, and I mean, I'm probably going to definitely get Dark Batman, Detective Comics probably. Going to get Robin because I'm a glutton for punishment. Justice League.
I didn't recognize anyone on that creative team for the Robin Eternal.
Yeah, but
so I was like,
Drake. I have to.
Yeah, well, Eddie Barrows, I know that artist. I think.
I thought Eddie Barrows was just doing a cover. I must have read it wrong.
And Justice League looks interesting to me. The thing about Justice League that excites me is the idea that they're keeping their identities secret from themselves. Like that sounds kind of cool to me. Because I remember back in the Young Justice days, it was during the time where Batman wouldn't let anyone know anyone's identity. So like when Tim was dating Stephanie, he had to date her as Robin because he wasn't allowed to tell her his identity.
It seems like there's an issue with consent, like at a level.
Yeah,
well, no, because they know that they don't know. You're
her identity, from the jump. So that was
so then there's a power dynamic problem.
Yeah.
This just doesn't.
But then there was a fun thing in Young Justice where like there was a time where the team all went camping and they played Truth or Dare, and someone dared Robin to take his mask off, and he had a second mask underneath because he knew someone would dare him.
That's
fun. So like I like the idea where like no one knows the identities. That's kind of fun for me.
Samuel David mentioned Swamp Thing for sure, and that one also looked cool too.
The character design looks awesome.
Yeah.
It looks fun. The art was cool. I can't remember anything I've read of Ram V's that I liked. The last thing same with Steve Orlando, I think is another one too. I tried some of their Justice League Dark stuff and Wonder Woman stuff, and I really didn't like it. So that was one of the things too, where even if the character design looked really cool or the cover looked cool and I was just on the fence, the names and the credits for me were just like, I'll hold off.
So
well, it worked both ways.
I mean, my blood will not allow me to miss the Batman books, so I'll buy the Batman books. But as much as I don't like the idea of Wonder Woman being saddled into this Superman family of books. I know that's just a publishing thing. It's a way to get more eyes on her. So I'll sit, grin, and bear it. But I will definitely check out in Immortal Wonder Woman because I love Becky Cloonan, and I'm also going to check out Nubia because if you're a Black comic book reader, you have been caping for more Nubia for so long that you this is your opportunity. And Aletha Martinez is an artist who I follow, who I've interviewed a couple of times and enjoy her work. So I'm definitely going to give that some love as well.
Speaking of Wonder Woman being a part of the Superman family, and I think only for that reason, I got a slight vibe of that never produced Twilight of the Gods thing. I don't think it has. I think it has like zero to do with it at all. But I just thought it just because of the way they're pitching it, like these houses of characters.
You know what? More so than I'm excited for this, because there's a lot of things about this I'm excited for, but more so than that, I'm excited for whatever's after this. Because every time that they do these like, quick, short amount of time initiatives or programs or events and take over the line, it shuffles things up and something new comes. It happens when it happens at Marvel. It happens here. There's always cool solicits that come out of this at like switched up creative teams and stuff. That's what I'm more excited about. Because every time this happens, there's something cool hopefully there's something cool coming.
You know what I would love to see happen? It'll never happen. It will absolutely 100% never happen. But you know how, the publishing lines and the corporate houses between, Marvel and DC, and those are the big two, right? Basically, they play this antagonistic role with one another. But for the most part, the creative teams, they get along. They know each other. They're at the convention. They're sitting side by side. They're busting it up, whatever.
Yeah.
I would love maybe an issue, maybe an arc that you pick up a issue of, let's say, Justice League, and it says that it's written by, just throwing a name out of the hat, Jeff Johns and Ivan Reis, right? That's what it says. But actually, it was done by Jonathan Hickman and name a Marvel artist of your choice. And so the Marvel guys do the DC books and the DC guys do the Marvel books for just one arc. And they never tell anybody. Yes.
Maybe they already did, Len. How do you know?
Well, you would know by the art. You would know by the artist.
That's
that would be the tell.
This is a cool line of questioning, though. Does anybody want to speculate as to what's going to happen after this, or what things are going to go down?
It wouldn't surprise me if they go to a classic setup, right? So this will be after Death Metal, which will have redone whatever it redoes. And I think Death Metal kind of, maybe not directly, but something about Future State said like in the wake of Death Metal. So that could mean plot or not. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me, especially knowing that they maybe were going to do 5G and totally change everything and decided not to do that. It wouldn't surprise me if this becomes iconic forms are more at play. You've got the Justice Society is back. And I'm kind of hoping that there will be a bit of a return to pre-New 52, bring along some cool New 52 stuff that was created, but I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I think it's going to return to the same, honestly.
I don't think it's going to be too crazy. I think it's just going to be a shuffle of creative teams.
Yeah.
So there's a big hullabaloo that Bendis' last issues on Superman and Action Comics are this December, but he's said like coyly that like he's not done with the Superman family. So I think it's just going to be a lot of title switch ups. And I think that Mark Waid is going to come to DC and take over a Superman book.
That'd be cool.
Because Dan DiDio and Paul Levitz are gone.
Oh, were they why he wasn't there?
Yeah, there's a whole lot of like blacklisting and
I didn't know that.
And hurt feelings.
Huh.
And he was never going to come to like Mark Waid's dream is to write a Superman monthly.
Yeah.
And he's been close and fired like twice.
Oh, interesting. Well, that would
some
be
of
cool.
it's his fault, some of it's not his fault.
Right. I think you're right too about the like some of these books, like the one or two that if there's one or two breakout stars, I think will continue in some form. That character will stick around. They'll travel from the future to the present. However,
I would be straight up shocked if this next Batman book doesn't become its own separate like miniseries or title or some way to bring it into continuity.
Yeah, of course. They do anything for Batman. You know
another Batman. Let's do it. Yeah,
they already have Batman Beyond. They don't usually do like. I mean, that was what 0 Hour was all about. Was like getting. Like consolidating the multiple futures. It'd be interesting to have like a Batman Beyond ongoing and
Batman Beyond is canceled.
True, but I mean, I don't know. I guess.
But he could come back to now, or it's just not related at all. The fact that they mentioned it during DC Fandom, and nothing else from Future State was mentioned, I already kind of had the idea that was going to be a marquee thing, you know. But I mean, it all depends on reaction and sales, and if he's popular, they'll figure out a way to keep him around, you know.
Well, I know one thing: as much good as Mark Waid has done at Marvel, and he's done some great stuff at Marvel, it always, every time I see his name there, I always like. That's right. He's not a DC.
Yeah.
Writer. If anybody felt like a DC writer, it is Mark Waid. Man.
For sure.
You know what? If anything, I've wholly enjoyed his wholesome earnestness applied to the Marvel characters. Man,
True.
I love his Daredevil run. I love his Captain America run, the old one, but then also the new short one before Ta-Nehisi Coates took over. It was like a beautiful 12 issues of just Captain America. Yeah, I mean, also too, his Doctor Strange run was spectacular, and no one was talking about it. So I'll follow him. But I just for some reason, like reading the tea leaves and all like the stuff, and people are commenting here and there. It's just like Mark Waid is like this close to working at DC. Maybe not exclusively, but they could just like grab him really quick, and I think he would do it.
I think he would do it in a heartbeat. And you're right. Sam, who's mentioned that he was a publisher at Humanoids. He is still a publisher at Humanoids, but obviously that hasn't stopped him from working with Marvel. And I don't think DC would let it get in the way. Exactly. Yeah. So, all right.
Guys, there was one other bit of pop culture news. I may have been the only one that watched it, but Star Trek Discovery Season 3 premiered this week. You watched it too?
I haven't watched it yet.
I loved it. I won't say a single thing about plot or anything, but I was in. I liked it.
Everyone dies.
Yeah,
Len,
that is
enjoy
true.
It.
Yeah.
All I know is this is how I know it is good.
Yeah.
Because on the Black Tribbles, our biggest Star Trek fan is Storm Tribble, aka Kennedy, right? Mm-hmm. Now, Kennedy, when they announced Star Trek Discovery, she sight unseen was like against it because it was set, because where it was set 10 years before the original series. She's like, they keep going back in the past. Why don't we go in the future? I'm not going to like this. I'm not going to like this. She didn't watch season 1. She didn't watch season 2. Everybody was telling her that it was great. You should watch it. Watch it. Somehow she lucked up and saw season 1, and she's like, oh, this is actually not this bad. Now all of a sudden she's the world's biggest Star Trek Discovery fan. But of course she still was a little trepidatious. So now over the last few months, Kennedy has joined another podcast. She's joined this podcast called Women at Warp, which is actually on the Star Trek Podcast Network.
Oh, sweet.
Nice.
So it's a big up for her. She is, while writing reviews of their new animated series, Lower Deck, which is great. She also will be writing reviews of Star Trek Discovery. Now, because of that, and because of her connection to Star Trek, she has actually seen the first 4 episodes of the 3rd season.
Oh.
And all she would do, I was like, so Kennedy, Star Trek season 3, what? That was her review.
All right.
So I know
Noel is producing an extremely surprisingly happy face.
Yeah, just like cover your mouth.
That's what she's doing. It's just like ooh, she just can't hold in the giddiness.
Well,
so
it's no
if
secret.
she says if that's Kennedy's review, then I know it has to be good, and I'm actually going to be watching it later on today.
It's no secret that now it's like they've gone past what is known as continuity in Star Trek.
Right.
So now it explicitly is a Discovery show, and they're creating continuity, which is wonderful. That it took 2 seasons is fine.
Yeah, and that was also cool. Prequel stuff can have a big problem sometimes, but it did not have those problems.
I think the first season had some janky moments where it was just like, all right, fine. But the way it all wrapped up and how it was, everything with Lorca was just wonderful, pulpy, kind of like, I liked it a lot. The second season was just fucking mwah.
Yeah.
When they, like, the casting was completely spot on for Pike, which made everything wonderful. And I'm glad they're getting their own show. But that held on to, like, that bridged the 2 continuities together. The fact that was so successful for me. So lay your groundwork with the crew, lay your groundwork where they exist, like with the broader scope of Starfleet where they exist. And now that you've got all that done, shoot them into the future and let them rebuild their own thing. And
now there's awesome. There's no like, well, how does that fit into the, you know what I mean? They're
not even a conversation
from any of that stuff. Right. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. And I like that. There definitely was a chance that Star Trek Picard could have stolen their thunder, and for a moment it did because of the nostalgia factor of it. But they didn't lose sight of what got them there, what got the CBS All Access to even exist and still be a thing was how good Star Trek Discovery was. So
I didn't finish Picard yet. I watched the first 2 episodes and I was like, oh, that's pretty good. But I've not gone back. Yeah.
It doesn't end
definitely
bad.
Yeah.
Go ahead, B.
I was going to say not about the plot of that at all, because I don't want to give anything away, but just so now you've got 2 completely different time periods that you're focusing on, right? And I wonder how that will, like when Len was saying Picard overshadowed it for a little bit. Now I kind of wonder, will Discovery overshadow Picard in season 2 or the other stuff, because it is now the furthest, the vanguard. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right.
And real quick, since you brought that up, and before we get out of here, I will tell Noel that I finished the 2nd season of The Boys on Amazon, and it was pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. It's so much better than the book. It's so much better.
Oh, sweet. That's good.
The book is trash compared to the show.
Oh, like, so good.
But were you going to say something about Discovery we talked at the same time and I went? What were you going to say?
Oh no, it's fine. It's fine. We've trekked out, and I don't want. And we're losing Brandon, and I don't want to lose Brandon.
Brandon, you don't trek. You don't get into this Star Trek.
See, you guys know me. I'm a completionist. So I started. I watched the original series. And I just had to move on, and I never went past that.
I told him not to.
He's 35 years. He's 35 years behind. It's cool,
guys. Right. I watched every classic episode of Doctor Who. That's the person I am.
See, I'll tell you, you can still watch it. Just like watch this other stuff first, and then go back.
Don't worry. I've seen the best of Star Trek. I've seen all the new movies with J.J. Abrams. We're good.
It's not the best of Star Trek. I heard that dig. Shut up.
I think that the first and third movies are fantastic.
I mean, genuinely, those are what got me into Star Trek. I was like, this is cool, and that's why I went back and started getting into it. So.
Star Trek Beyond is fantastic.
Yeah, but to go from those movies, and then go back to the original series, like, don't do it to yourself, bro.
But actually, it was fun because the original series came out around the same time as the original Doctor Who stuff, and compared to that, Star Trek is in the future. Like,
For sure.
That's very true. That is very true. Very true. All right, well, that's Gutter Talk for today, ladies and gentlemen. We hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed spending Sunday with the Cult Pop spoiler alert Gutter Talk live stream, as it were. We'll come up with a more encompassing name.
No, I think that captures it.
Thank you for spending the Sunday morning with us as we talked about all the things that don't matter but matter so much.
Yeah, thank you. Noel, where can people, if they want to get in touch, be in business with Mr. Bartocci, where can they contact you?
You can hit me up on Twitter at Mr. Bartocci, MrBarTocci, or just converse with us on any of the social feeds for Cult Pop, and I'll pop in and say hello.
And what about you, B Lieb?
I'm at BrianLiebDesign.com, and wherever else you might find me.
Should we? Are we doing a thing next week?
We'll figure it out.
Sometimes at the end of the month.
Oh yeah. So
right.
book club will likely be next month because the weekend after that is actually November 1st. So next Sunday is likely going to be book club. We'll make sure. But for those of you that don't know or want to read along, it is John Constantine Hellblazer Volume 1. But it's the new series by Simon Spurrier. So it just came out on trade paperback.
Yeah.
Marks of yeah. Oh, JD's back to be able to
very
the
good.
deets.
Hey, he's muted though.
He is.
Welcome to Gutter Talk. I heard you guys talking a little bit about Discovery. Holy shit, that show's great.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Have you seen episode 1, season 3?
Yes, we watched episode 1 last night. I love it.
Oh yeah.
So I guess Noel wants us to mention that our next book club, which we will be doing.
We did.
That's where we were.
We mentioned it already.
That's where we're at.
I was just showing it. This is the exact one.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Spoiler Alert and Gutter Talk.
Or the Cult Pop podcast in general.
Hey, every cameo you made was brilliant.
It was.
Oh, is he?
What was brilliant?
Frozen?
No, I can't hear anything. No, close it out.
He already.
I think everything
We're closed.
Wait, hang on. No, we didn't.
Brandon, tell people. I know Brandon's not really on social media, but tell everybody where they can get in touch with Cult Pop.
I don't know. CultPopGo@gmail.com.
Yes, CultPopGo@gmail.com.
Oh, and also you can come to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/CultPopGo.
Give them the P.O. box, Brandon.
Be sure to like, subscribe. Be sure to...
Oh, and comment and
if you find your favorite pigeon, write a small note. Scroll it real tight. Tame the pigeon to tie it to its, and then set it free.
And if you reach us, it will.
If you receive the pigeon, be sure to like and subscribe. That's all.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we will talk at you later.
Love you.